For our summer 2023 trip, we hooked up the Scamp and headed south from New Jersey toward the Outer Banks of North Carolina. And this is a place that neither Patrick or myself have ever been, and we've heard a lot about it. People love to travel to this area, so we were very excited to check it out. If you're not familiar with it, there's a series of barrier islands on the coast of North Carolina. We're on our way into the Outer Banks for the first time. Neither of us have been here before. One of the best things I did for this trip was pre-make a bunch of food. There's a burger under there. I made this salad, so when we stop, it's easy to make a quick meal in the Scamp without having to actually cook or make too much of a mess. I just pull the things out and throw it together. Hi. This is a hot dog. We knew we were getting closer to the shore area when we saw a small plane pulling an advertising banner. That's something that we see really often in the shore towns in New Jersey. So it's kind of like a sign of summer when you see the banner planes coming out. We were curious to see what the Outer Banks looks like, since we know so many people who vacation here year after year. Hey everyone, I'm just jumping in here to let you know that this was filmed in Cape Hatteras National Seashore, and we went through the process of applying for a commercial filming permit, as you now have to do under the rules and regulations of any sort of filming that gets posted to social media. And we were answered back by a national park employee that said that they had reviewed our YouTube channel and the plan for filming, and it was determined that this was a low impact activity that would not be a drain on park resources, and it would not interfere with the enjoyment of other people going to the national park. So we did not have to obtain or pay for a commercial filming permit. However, if you are traveling to any federally managed lands, national parks, national seashores, all of the above, you do have to go on their website ahead of time and apply to see if you need a commercial filming permit, because it is on a very case-by-case basis, and there's no strong rule that says who does and who doesn't. It's really a case-by-case basis that they are looking at your permit to see if it's going to have an impact on the park's resources, or other people who are trying to enjoy the park. So make sure that you stay on top of that if you have any plans to film in any nationally or federally managed lands. It was over an 8-hour drive for us from home to get to the Outer Banks, and part of that is because as we left the mainland and you get out onto the barrier islands, it's a long road that goes from one island to the next. And in the northern part, we were pretty surprised to see that it was very commercial. Lots of people, traffic, restaurants, stores. It didn't really have a strong nature vibe to it, but we were happy to see that as we continued farther south along the Outer Banks island chains, it did become a little bit more natural. There weren't quite as many houses or businesses, and we were glad, because we were really hoping that this was going to be a good, relaxing experience where we just get to be immersed in the shore experience in the summer. Our destination was the Frisco Campground, which is pretty close to Cape Hatteras. And surprisingly, Patrick booked this trip just a couple weeks earlier. Because this is all dry camping, there were still quite a few spots that were open. There was actually no ranger at the ranger station. You just come and find your site, and it has a reservation tag on there. Hi, bub. Hot dog. And you just pull in. And this is pretty neat. This little area over here gives you some good shade. They really worked on tucking this back here. That is a very large sign. They really don't want you going through here. But this is nice. Shaded area to cook and hang out. I think we'll probably put the gazelle up right there. So it's much more private than our campsite when we were at Assateague. You actually have some protection and some shade. That is really nice. The Scamp is in full sun, so it's probably gonna be hot in there. But at least we have some shade. We were really happy with this campsite. It was close to the main entrance, so we did get a lot of traffic coming in. It was the entrance to the main loop, but since we had that little area tucked back between the trees, we had a lot more privacy than a lot of other spots. So very happy with the campsite. And this was actually the first trip that Patrick booked himself. He planned out our route, he found our campsite, which is usually my job, but I think he did a very good job putting this trip together. And he might get a new job of planning some of our trips in the future. But we were pretty hungry after being in the car for a long time, so I started to cook some food. And even though we still don't have an air conditioner and cooking inside kind of heats up the Scamp, there was a really good breeze that was coming through, so that helped to, keep us from overheating too much. Hi. We put up the gazelle, which just barely fits in between these trees, but it gives us a nice extra shady area. Oh good, he's eating. Good boy, Red. But luckily right now it is not buggy, so we're just leaving it open. Knock on wood. Hopefully it stays like that. But this is a really nice little shady area. We're just gonna sit outside and eat because we're getting this great breeze. That's the water over there. There's this constant breeze. Very nice.
Very private.
So far, I like this better than Assateague,
Yes.
just because we have shade and privacy. But we'll see when we walk down to the beach how that looks. What do you think, Red? Well, you didn't get to go to Assateague, so you don't know. Neither of us had any cell service here, but we did bring the Starlink because I had to try to get some work done while we were here. Now we'll see how our week is going to go, if the Starlink is going to work and if the solar is going to work, because this is a full week of dry camping. And there's no water fill station here, so Pat just filled up our 5-gallon container and we're just going to have to keep refilling that and putting that into the Scamp. So it is a little bit more work to camp here, but I think it'll be worth it.
Very nice.
Yeah. Is it Redford approved? Yeah. Okay. You get to see how the beach looks? Alright. This is what the Starlink is doing right now. It's not fantastic. It's working enough that I can look at websites, check the weather, answer emails, so that's something. But we'll see as the week goes on. We'll kind of see how the performance does. Once we had some connectivity, it was time to go see the beach. Ready? This guy is literally trying to drag me down the road.
Good.
Let go.
Leave it.
Okay. Come on. It was very windy and we weren't sure if it was always like that, but there were thunderstorms coming in tonight. So far, we've almost stepped on a snake. I had one tick and I got bitten by fire ants twice. Camping by the beach always sounds like such a beautiful, romantic experience, but the reality is that the beach is a very harsh environment. Wind, sun, you're very exposed to storms. There are all sorts of bugs and there's a lot of things to contend with. But with that being said, if you are prepared and you know what to expect, you get to experience some of the most spectacular sunrises and sunsets that you can see. The wind got stronger as we moved ourselves closer to the ocean, and as we were walking over the dunes, we were actually being pelted by sand because the wind was that strong. But still worth it to enjoy the sunset at the beach. And you can see Redford was super excited. He loves running around in the sand and already had a mouthful of sand by this point. But the neat thing about staying at a national seashore is you get this undisturbed version of the ocean, even though they allow oversand vehicles at Cape Hatteras. So if you have a 4x4, you can get a pass to drive on the beach, which is pretty neat. We did see a lot of people out on the beach during the day, bringing all their gear with them, hanging out for the whole day, which looked like a very fun and unique experience. But once you get a little bit closer to sunset and everybody's done swimming, most people go back and they're eating dinner by this time. But this is actually my favorite time to come down to the beach because it's so much quieter, even though the wind was getting pretty crazy and we knew that there was a storm coming in. As the sun went down, we made our way back toward the Scamp because from past camping experiences, we have learned you want to have all your chores done before the sun goes down because that's when the bugs really go crazy. And when you know there's a strong thunderstorm coming and you're on a barrier island, you don't want to mess around with that. Make sure everything is secured. Those thunderstorms can get pretty serious. And sure enough, as the sun went down, the pouring rain, strong winds, and pretty impressive light show from the lightning started. So we were happy to be in the Scamp and not in a tent on this trip. But thanks for coming along with us as we get to experience Cape Hatteras and the Outer Banks of North Carolina for the first time. We have a couple more videos to share from this trip with some rather trying RV experiences that happen at the end. Thank you so much to our Patreon members for supporting the production of these videos so that we are able to share it with you.
Those fears, and it's all fair to be where and I'll be there, so don't be scared. Just take a deep breath of air, and 1, 2, 3 to 10, you begin to focus again, and though time flies, we'll have enough to realize this bigger than the both of us.